tricolor of France flies in all the winds of the world, in the November gales of the North Atlantic, in typhoon weather in the South Pacific. It flies too under the hot, dry skies of North Africa, over gleaming new cities as white as the sands on which they stand. Beyond the cities, the flag of France flies over the vast Sahara with its oases, caravan trails, and Foreign Legion forts. Further south still, on the Niger, French engineers are bringing light and power to the African interior. There, too, is the tricolor. There, too, is progress. Under the blue, white, and red come thousands of square miles of the Earth's surface, rivers and plains, valleys and villages. Villages like Lambarini, where the sick and afflicted are tended by Dr. Schweitzer, scientist, philosopher, musician, and Frenchman. Half the world away, the tricolor flies over the Antarctic, over Terre Adélie. There, the French are working to push forward the frontier of knowledge, to plant the banner of science in the unknown. The tricolor flies, too, over a school in French Equatorial Africa. There, the teacher puts the question to his pupils. Tell me, what is this France? This nation that unites Terre Adélie and Tahiti, Lambarini and Paris, you and Dr. Schweitzer. France is a country surrounded by 2 seas, an ocean, and 3 mountain ranges. It is much smaller than Africa. And what grows in France?
Des bananes.
Bananas. Well, yes, France does grow bananas, but only a few of them. But they symbolize the diversity which is France, the diversity which is her wealth. A few bananas, even some oil. In volume, the oil from the foothills of the Pyrenees may not be a threat to Texas or Abadan, but its value is already an economic comfort to France. Diversity which is wealth. In the heart of France, near Limoges, prospectors listen to the tick-tick of Geiger counters. For there, in the hard ground, can be found the new wealth of this atomic age, uranium. Uranium for France's 2 atomic piles. Wealth to the north, in Normandy. Pastures for some of the finest beef and dairy livestock in the world. Here, only 10 years ago, was D-Day, and the blossoms wilted in the fumes of battle. Now there is peace again in Normandy, and plenty. Milk, butter, eggs, and cheese. Cheese made by special formulas and skills passed down through generations of peasant cheesemakers, producing delicacies like Pont l'Evêque and Camembert, famous throughout the world. These are pastures whose products make names for the fine menus everywhere. Rôti de porc, filet mignon on the hoof. The prime materials of the renowned French art of cooking. Farming in France is rooted both in experience and in a faith in the soil that borders on religion. And faiths in France tend to be strong, and religion timeless, yet infinitely tangible. Thanks to this wealth, France has enough for her own needs and enough to spare to send abroad. And so the names of her great seaports are synonymous with her wealth. Le Havre and Cherbourg, Brest and sunny Marseille. Ports among some of Europe's busiest harbors. Along the coast from Marseille is Toulon, one of the nation's biggest naval stations. Here are fighting ships, like the aircraft carrier Richelieu. Ships and men following great traditions, for the French have been seafaring people since the days of Gaul. Wealth from the sea off the Brittany coast. Herring, sole, sardine. Here, too, is faith. A Brittany pardon or blessing of the sea is as much a part of a fisherman's life as his boat or nets. Wealth from beneath France, from the deep coal mines of the northeast. Today, these mines are a mainstay of the coal steel community, coordinating these basic industries in 6 European countries. From these mines come millions of tons of coal each year to be turned into steaming coke and smoking ingots in the mills of Lorraine. The longest continuous coal strip mill in Europe, an engineering feat performed by the Monet Plan for the rejuvenation of French industry. Record production in the mines and mills means record production all down the line. Wealth transformed into 2,000 cars turned out each day, into the fastest railway locomotives in the world, into some of the world's fastest planes. With such machines as the Mystère fighter, the French Air Force is a vital part of Western defense, guarding the skies over the ancient bastions of Europe. Today's new economic surge in France is one powered by electricity, and each year finds the lines extending further across the country. Electricity not to change the face of France, for that the French do not want, but to make life easier by turning the force of rivers and streams into useful power. Greatest of the new projects is the chain of dams and power stations between Donzère and Mondragon on the river Rhône. There, thousands of French workers carried out the gigantic task of rechanneling a mighty river to harness its power. Now, Donzère-Mondragon has become a symbol of that new surge in the French economy, an economy based upon the diversity which is wealth. Yes, France is wealth, but that's only some of the story. There's something special about France that makes her different, and yet makes her a part of everyone's dreams. Call it culture, call it the art of living. Really, it's indefinable. Like most precious things, it's old. Old as the stones of Karnak and the great ruins of Roman France, reminding the world that men have lived here since the beginning of time. Even in the Middle Ages, France was thriving with towns and villages like Versailles, founded by Benedictine monks in the 9th century. There, in the church of La Madeleine, men preached the Second Crusade, and Richard Coeur de Lion knelt for the Assumption of the Cross. The Angel of Rheims smiled down on a liberating army, led by a girl called Joan of Arc. The Palace of Versailles, built by Louis XIV. Versailles, where the king's wish was command, and the commands were gaudy and extravagant. Here, the Bourbon rulers squandered a kingdom until the people replaced the private splendor of the few with liberty, equality, and fraternity. The nobles are dead, the court intrigues long since ended. But history and beauty still walk through the gardens of the great chateaux along the Loire. Yes, France has something special. Mellowed stone and vines pruned close to the ground, and flowers. There's lavender in Provence, bathing the hills in color, and flower carts to carry the blossoms to market or to distilleries in towns like Grasse. Fragrance of rose, jasmine, and lavender, blended into fabulous scents which make France the land of perfume. Something special. Perhaps the constant search for the beautiful, the satisfying. A reverence for perfection, the unerring good taste of even the most humble after years of seeking for the sublime. These are the hallmarks of French craftsmen, such as the glassworkers of Baccarat, blowing their magic into crystal. Wine. Not just a beverage, but a history and geography of France. Saumur, the wine of the fortress town where gated horses still uphold the high tradition of French cavalry. Alsace, from the banks of the Rhine, and Strasbourg, its war-weary capital. Bordeaux, where ships have been calling for its wine since Europe was young. Beaujolais, from the region of Lyon, city of silk and good eating. Avignon, with its great palace of the popes and the famous bridge. Beaune, center of the wine trade of Burgundy, with its hospital of the Holy Spirit dating from 1443. Beaune and Beaujolais, Alsace and Champagne. Champagne, heady and choice like Paris herself. Paris by night. Curtain time at the opera, and a hush in Renoir's loge. A ballet dancer by Degas makes her entrance, while Picasso's clown waits in the wings. Paris, gay by night, hard-working by day, but at all times pulsating with life, full of much that is special. No one is more stimulated by Paris than the students, for this is one of the world's greatest seats of learning. Here in research, the legacy of Pasteur and Curie still keeps French science to the forefront. Now, thanks to the vaccines of Calmette and Guérin, 50 million of the world's children have been protected against tuberculosis. Science or art, Paris is a fountainhead of ideas, diverse and often daring, for France is a non-conformist land. It has been said that every man has two homelands, his own and France. Since the Middle Ages, Paris, with her great university of the Sorbonne, has been a second home for all who seek beauty and the truth. And there is much beauty here. perhaps more than has ever been packed into one city before. It took 2,000 years to make Paris, and it needs a lifetime to know her well. And yet her landmarks are household words for half the people on earth. Notre Dame, and the Place de la Concorde, the Eiffel Tower, and in its shadow the Palais de Chaillot, today NATO's headquarters, where France is host to her allies in the Atlantic Alliance. The National Assembly, housing France's elected representatives. I do not agree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. This is the credo of France. People are more individualistic, it follows that no politics are more lively. Yet there is stability here too, the stability of tradition, the coherency of being French. Every 14th of July, France celebrates her revolution against tyranny and her accession to the world of free men. Then the diversity which is wealth becomes the diversity which is strength, as Frenchmen of every color, creed, and class unite behind the tricolor. France, with her great traditions, has much to live for, and therefore much to defend. And so in the 15-nation Atlantic community, France has taken her rightful place in the ever-ready defense of freedom. On the night of July 14th, all France dances in the streets. Housewives and school teachers, students and policemen. But what of the little boy whose father is away on an Antarctic expedition? On that night, France to him is Terre Adélie. And on that night, even in Terre Adélie, the sense of belonging. Belonging to a family of great and proud people. There and everywhere, where the tricolor flies in the winds of the world.